Hello my lovelies and welcome back to my channel. Today is day 5, the last day of our iris sew along. Today we'll be finishing the back and we'll do that by first stitching together the lining, then the main, putting it together and then creating the strap, unless you've done the strap on day 1 in the prep time. So you might be finishing a little earlier than I am. Let's start by grabbing the two lining pieces and put them right sides together. We're going to stitch the sides with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, and we're going to also stitch the bottom with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. We're also going to be boxing the corners afterwards. So make sure that you do follow that slight angle that you see here that follows the seam allowance. You can see it better on the vinyl. So see here, it's a little angle and you have that in all 4 corners. Make sure that you do follow that when you stitch. It's going to make it easier for when you top stitch the bag afterwards at the end. And I think I have made up my mind and I'm going to do not the birthing method, but the drop-in lining method because of all the vinyl that I have. I simply just don't want to squish all this beautiful vinyl through the little pocket here. So I'm going to end up closing the pocket. If you're using canvas or woven, you can definitely follow the pattern and birth the bag through the pocket. I prefer not to. And that's the beauty of sewing and deciding for yourself what works best for you and the materials you're using. So while I'm here, since I've already made up my mind what I'm going to do, I'm going to stitch close the pocket as well. Do not do this if you're going to birth your bag through the pocket, okay? Only if you're going to follow the method that I'm using right now, which will be a drop-in lining. I made up my mind yesterday when we were doing the flap because of all the vinyl here in my flap. I said, nope, we're not birthing it, we're doing a drop-in lining. The bottom part. This is a little bag. It felt a little bigger from the pictures, but it is quite small, so very practical as well if you want to carry just like your phone, keys, and like a makeup or a compact mirror or something. So we've stitched all the sides, both and the bottom. So now we're boxing the corners by opening this up. And I'm going to also open the seam allowance on both and stitch it like so. By opening the seam allowance, I am reducing the bulk here. Make sure you top stitch at the beginning and at the end. And repeat for the other corner. So you're going to open it up, match the seam allowances here, open, match the seams, open the seam allowance, and stitch it with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Now if you want to reduce this by a little bit, you can trim the seam allowance down a little bit. Okay, and your lining is done. This is so tiny. I thought it would be bigger than this. Okay. Again, if you want, you can, especially if you use the woven, you can press your seam allowance open, or you can use some double-sided tape. I'm going to do a little finger press on the bottom for the seam allowance and for the top as well. Now, what I'm going to do before I put this away I'm going to place, and this is the first step of doing that drop-in lining, I'm going to place some double-sided tape. This is 1/4 inch along that top seam, but make sure that the seam allowance stays open. By opening the seam allowance, you're going to be reducing a lot of the bulk. So I just fold it open and then add my double-sided tape. Okay. Folding the seam allowance open and adding my double-sided tape to the top edge of your lining. Same thing here, opening the seam allowance and adding my tape to right at the top there. So this is what will look like. Leave it like this for now. Don't open it up, because we're going to open it up closer to the final steps. Okay, so this is what it looks like right now. Seam allowances are open on both sides, and we're gonna put it aside for now. Next step for the main is exactly the same step as we did for the lining. So we're going to place this right sides together, stitch on this side, stitch on this side, box the corner, and add the double-sided tape at the top. So I'm going to keep filming, but I'm probably going to speed up through this process because it's exactly the same as what we just did right now. Alright, so we've completed the stitching of the main. We added the double-sided tape. So now, before we turn it, I'm going to remove the double-sided tape and fold the seam allowance down 3/8 inch. And because we have that little corner there and the decoville, it will make it a lot easier to fold. And it will tend to stay in place just because we have that decoville edge there, which is placed 3/8 inch away. So that will be very helpful. Where it will want to push will be where those color blocking parts are, because it's thicker. It will want to push on you, but you can show it who's the boss. This is where good double-sided tape comes into place. The one I have is from Wawa. Again, you have to cut it, it's not tear away, but it stays really well. No hands, Ma, no hands. Okay, so let's turn this inside out. Again, I'm going to be using a drop-in method for this. If you're using the pattern, follow those steps because you're not doing the seam allowance fold method. But see, I didn't want to do all of this through a little, through just that little pocket. Okay, push out all your corners. I will steam this back, so I give it, remove some of those creases. Oh, those corners are looking mighty beautiful. Okay, so push out those corners. Now it should look something like this. See, with the seam allowance inside, you can see the decoville, and you can double check the closure. Ah, so gorgeous, man, this vinyl is beautiful. All right, so now you can grab back the lining and we can peel off the paper backing and fold the seam allowance just like we did for the main. We're going to fold it down 3/8 of an inch. And while we don't have the decoville to help us on the lining, we do have that little angle that I told you to follow when you stitched, and that will help as well. So I'm removing the tape and folding it. If you want to be even more precise on this step, you can actually draw a line that is 3/8 times 2 and just follow that line. So what's 3/8 times 2? 6/8, that is 3/4 of an inch. So from the top edge, you can draw a line 3/4 of an inch and just bring the raw edge here to that line. But I'm not. It's not that serious. You could get more precise, but I think this is good enough. And I'm aiming for good enough today, not perfection. Press that seam allowance down well with your hands. And there you have it. So now you're going to drop this lining in the main. I like to have the pocket on the back, but if you prefer the pocket on the front, it doesn't matter. It's exactly the same size. So I'm going to drop this lining this way. It's wrong sides together. Look how pretty. This yellow is really popping. So I'm matching the side seams like so. If you are using woven and following the steps from the pattern, instead of doing a drop-in lining, make sure that you added your connector, because you're not using vinyl, it's a different style of adding the connector. So keep that in mind. What I'm doing only applies for vinyl and for the drop-in method that I'm using, because my connectors will go on the outside. If you're using woven, your connectors will go inside, in between the lining and the main on the sides. I put them wrong sides together, added some clips. So now I'm just going to top stitch once, as close as I can get it to the edge of the top stitching. Now all of you friends, I'm not saying that I'm jealous, but I'm also not saying I'm not, but all of you friends with a cylinder arm, now is your time to shine and make us all jealous and want a cylinder arm machine. All the rest of us with a flat bed will have to do. So if you have a cylinder arm, this step is absolutely a piece of cake. If not, I'm going to sew, because my thread matches from inside, the bobbin thread and the top are the same. I'm just going to sew from the inside. Another way would be to just flip it like this and sew from the outside, but I find it's a little more difficult. So I'm starting in the back and I'm going to sew from the inside as best as I can with a flat bed. Not me being very jealous of all your cylinder arm people. Just go slow and top stitch as best as you can. You'll be able to steam out or iron out any wrinkles afterwards, especially if you're using woven or canvas. And this is the moment when Alex's brain starts doing math of getting a cylinder arm. And then when I'm done, I'll say, I'm not gonna spend $4,000 for just one stitch. I already have an industrial machine. And this was my inner dialogue for the past probably 3 years, I wanna say. So far, that was just an inner dialogue. It never actually came to fruition. Save your money, save your money. Actually, no, if you can get one, get it. Oh, gorgeous, 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 gorgeous. Alright, so we can set that aside. You can take some time to admire it, snip all the threads, and set that aside because we need to finish the... We need to create the connectors and the strap and then finish the last steps. Alright, let's add the connector. So if you remember, on the first day we cut the connector by hand, and we also have double-sided tape in between them. You can add, if you haven't already, and if you want to, edge paint. But what I'm going to do right now, because there's staying together only with the double-sided tape, and we don't want that, I'm going to stitch around the connectors, around the edge, with about 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. If you want, you can also add pre-made connectors, like the metal ones. Would be really cute here. Probably if I didn't do this for the sew-along, I would have added the pre-made metal connectors. But I just wanted to show you in the sew-along how the pattern is done. Or I might just show you how it's done, but then add my metal connectors. I don't know. I love those metal ones. Alright, so I just stitched around the seam, the sides, like so. And I'll do the same thing for the other one. Try to go slow around the curve. Hard when you're not a very patient person like I am. Meaning I'm not a very patient person, not that I'm a very patient person. Yes, I'm not. Alright, so you should have your markings, but if you've lost your markings for the rivets, make sure you grab your pattern piece and you mark them again. I will punch the holes right now in the markings. And then I will punch the hole in the back side. Okay, and that is 1 1/4 down. I'm just double checking. Oh no, it's 1/2 inch down from the top edge. Only 1/2 inch. Okay, so you have your little back here. I'm going to, you see where the side seam is? I don't want to put it right in the seam so it doesn't unravel. So I'm going to go off by a little bit from the seam and just mark half an inch. Just a little bit more towards the front, just so I don't punch the hole in the actual seam. I'll show you exactly what I mean. Maybe I should use a lighter color so you can see it better, not red on red. Okay. So see, it's not quite on the seam. Not quite on the seam, so I don't ruin the stitches, but it's half an inch down. And I'm going to do the same thing for the other side. And again, I'm going to mark it towards the front. There you go, and I'm going to do a little hole through both the lining and the main. And because we split our seam allowances, it's going to go through some of the seam allowance too, but not through the actual stitch. And now grab your connector. Make sure you find the previous side and you put that towards the outside. Slide a D-ring through it. And you're going to get yourself a rivet. There it is. And put the rivet through all 3 layers. So the 2 layers of the connector and the bag. So I'm going to start with just 1 layer here outside, that's the prettiest one, yes. And just then put it through the bag, and then through the last layer. I'll show you once I put the cap. And there you go, and let's add the cap. A 9-inch post might work better for this, but I think this is an 8-inch, so it will have to do. Okay, so it's through here, and then on the inside you can see it's like this. So now I'm just going to press it down, making sure that my connector is straight up, because it will try to turn on you. So try to keep it as straight up, oops, without hitting your head, as possible. And there you go. I'm going to do a little cleaning on this connector. I think there's some paper stuck to it from when I did the edge painting. Beautiful, right? Let's do the same thing on the other side. So again, the prettiest side looks like it's this one. I'll do 1 post on one side. Okay, don't forget your D-ring. I'll slide it through here. Then fold it over. And make sure that the post slides through the other side and through the connector. Remove the connector and add your cap. To lock it in. Perfect. So now the cap is inside. There you go. So now the cap is inside and I'm going to push it down. Again, keep your connector straight. If you're using a chain right now, you are pretty much done. Your connectors are added, your bag is pretty much ready. So I'll show you what it looks like with the chain and then we'll do a strap, a glitter strap. So I love this. I'm going to keep this chain no matter what. This is like a short chain that I got off either Temu or Amazon. But it's not matte, it's like gunmetal. But it looks pretty cute, right? There. It's pretty cute. Okay, so we can do this, or you can do a crossbody chain. You can do both and keep this as decorative. They're a little slightly different finish, these two different suppliers. But you can do like a crossbody and keep this like hanging over as decoration. Look how beautiful it is. Or you can use webbing, or you can make your own strap like we're going to do right now from vinyl. So for this you'll need your rivets, you'll need your strap ends if you're using them, your swivel clasp, and the slider. So this should be about 54 inches. It's a little smaller mine, but not by much. So what you want to do is mark the center, which is 2 inches from the bottom. All along this. So it's 2 inches from each side. Okay? Now you want to get some double-sided tape, hopefully 1/2 inch, but I think I don't have any more 1/2 inch, which means I'm left with just this one, just 1/4 inch. So you can add it to the center. Again, 1/2 inch would work best. 1/4 inch does the trick, but you might need 2 rows or a very sturdy one. So I'm going to try to use just 1 layer, and I'm going to place it right on top of the line that we just drew. Okay. Peel off the backing, and starting from about the center, fold your straps towards the inside, from the center going out, so it avoids twisting, and you're going to do that on both sides. If you have double-sided tape that's 1/2 inch, which I ran out of, this will hold a little better because it's a bigger area, a bigger sticky area. I work with what I have and I ran out. Okay, so now you're going to do the same thing, going towards the other side. from the center towards the other side. And I like my straps usually to be a solid complementary color because I can reuse them for other bags. So I know I have this glitter in like a little crossbody that I've made a couple of years ago from the same glitter, and I know that this strap I can then put it on that bag also if I want. Okay, so now fold it again, and you can add a couple of clips. Again, I like to start from the center, going out. And now you should have a 1-inch strap with no raw edges. This is the easiest way to create a strap. From the center to the sides. There we go. So now I'm going to speed through a top stitch on both sides with an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance from the edge. Oops. Gorgeous. I'm going to probably pre-order some of that matte red that I use for the back to make a strap in the same fabric as well. Luckily, I think this is running too, but that's definitely running right now with the pre-order. So now you're going to grab your slider on one end, slide it up, slide it in, and you're going to either rivet it or stitch it down, whichever you want. I prefer to rivet my straps, makes it a lot easier. One rivet should be plenty. The rivets are matte, just like the hardware. There's something about matte hardware and glitter that looks so nice together. So this is one end. Now you're going to slide one connector through. This is a 1-inch matte connector. Okay, and then you're going to bring it to the other end and slide it up. And these are pretty tight sliders, so I have to do some finicking. And then slide it down on the other side. And now grab your other connector, slide it on in, fold it it 1 inch or 2. And we're going to rivet this one in place as well. If you want to add strap ends, which I'm not going to, I changed my mind because this is matte, this is gunmetal, and I don't want them so close to each other. You can add them before you put the rivet. Just make sure you add your strap end like so before you put your rivet. I'll skip that step because it's not the same finish. But if I find some strap ends that are matte, I'll grab them and add them later. Well, not really, because I won't be able to with the rivet on. It's okay. It's all good. Okay, let's add a little rivet here. And your strap is done. If you want to be extra and paint your edge, you can do that as well, if you didn't add the end. But we are pretty much done. So your crossbody is ready. Adjust it to your personal preference. Okay, let me grab the bag and show you both together. There you go. So this is it with the chains. Let me take off the chains. So you can choose the look based on your event, based on your mood, based on your clothes, and just switch them around. Oh, it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. Okay. And this matte hardware is awesome. So glitter and matte together. I like it, but I do prefer it with the chain. I have to say that this is, I actually like it the best with the small chain. So I think I might just keep this one like a little handbag, even though it's a crossbody, and just keep the little chain because I like it best. And even if I keep it just decoration. Oh, it's so pretty. Thank you so much for joining me this week in the final Backstitch Prints sew along. This is happening in the Backstitch backroom, so make sure you check in with your final iris bag in there in the day 5 of the sew along album. Today is Friday, but the sew along will end on Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern time, so you have plenty of time to catch up or make more. Every bag that you make will get you an entry in the random drawing, and the winner will get a pattern of choice from a Quaint stitch and also a gift card from Backstitch Prints. So once again, thank you so much for joining me this week. Thank you to Backstitch Prints not only for doing this sew along, but for the many years of amazing, beautiful fabrics, excellent customer service, and side note, a true friendship that I have with Amber. She's one of the greatest people I know and one of the most hardworking people I know. So on a personal note, thank you so much, Amber, and thank you Backstitch Print for everything you've done to the fabric community this past few years. And like I said before, this is not goodbye, this is see you real soon, and love you tons. Thank you all for joining me, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.